Hey everyone, today is going to be an exciting video. We're going through the Quran start to finish, and it's currently Surah 2:23. That's where we're going to be starting. If you haven't seen the last two episodes, I'll go put a link down in the description. Go and watch those, and then come back to this one just so you understand where we're at. So it's going to be the first of the Quranic tests. Now, what are the Quranic tests? You won't have heard of that because that's like a term I've just coined like right now as I've been going through these verses. Essentially, today we're going to be able to prove something. Okay, we should be able to prove something. So several times throughout, the Quran challenges the reader to test its own authenticity. Okay, the Quran itself actually challenges me as a reader. So I'm a Christian and I want to go through the whole Quran so I can actually understand Islam, understand the Quran. Okay, I'm going into it with an open mind, but I'm also going into it with that questioning mind, ready to challenge things I see. But I'm going into it with that open mindset, with that intellectual honesty. And like I said, ever since the first episode, if it can prove to me certain things, if it can prove this, I will change my religion. It's as simple as that. Okay, because I'm not going into this with sort of this. I'm going to believe in Christianity no matter what. I'm going to it with that open mindset. So today, I'm going to be taking the Quran for its word. Okay, and I'm going to be going through this test it gives me. This literal test. It says, do this to prove whether the Quran is true or it's going to be false. And we're following this test honestly to see if the Quran is false. And maybe by the end of this video, can we prove whether the Quran is true or whether it is false? Okay, that's why I think it's going to be an exciting video, okay? And yeah, I'm going into this with sort of open mindset, questioning, but also being respectful and that sort of stuff. So don't go crazy in the comments. But like, actually do comment because like I want to see what people are thinking. And that's with the whole thing. I want to see loads of comments just because it helps me as well. I'm learning things. I'm not a teacher. Okay, so don't take anything I say in this video. Don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. I'm going to put the notes down below so you can go and have another look through them after you've watched the video, and you can do your own research, ask people, and all this sort of things. Don't take my word for it. It'll just be an interesting video because we're going to be doing this Quranic test, and maybe we'll be able to see, is the Quran true or false. So, in Surah 2, the Quran gives me a definitive true or false test about its divine authorship. Okay, it gives me this test, the Quran. Now, is the Quran going to pass its own test? Now, what is this test I'm talking about? It is from Surah 2:23 and 24. So let's read it. Okay. And if you're in doubt about what we have sent down upon our servant, then produce a surah, the like thereof, and call upon your witnesses other than Allah, if you should be truthful. But if you do not, and you will never be able to, then fear the fire, whose fuel is people and stones prepared for the disbelievers. Okay, now this is a test which also gets mentioned quite a few other times. I've got them here. It gets mentioned in 1038 and it's very similar. Or do they say that the Prophet invented it? Then bring forth a surah like it and call upon whomever you can besides Allah if you should be truthful. Okay, 11:13. I think this one does it with 10 verses, 10 chapters, sorry. Or do they say he invented it? Say then bring 10 surahs like it that have been invented and call upon for assistance whomever you can besides Allah if you should be truthful. If mankind and the jinn gathered in order to produce the likes of this Quran, they could not produce the like of it, even if they were to each other assistance. Okay? Saying mankind, if you tried to, you couldn't produce this Quran. Let's go to the final one. I'm just getting you all the references to show these are the tests it's given. Then let them produce a statement like it if they should be truthful. Okay? So those are different verses which cover this test, but the reason we're going through it now is because it's first been covered in Surah 2:23 to 24, which is exactly where we're at right now. Okay, so what is this Quranic test? What is the challenge? What is this thing about proving the authenticity or not of the Quran? In particular, the divine authorship of the Quran. So the challenge is this, okay? And it's about inimitability, which I believe like that's sort of coming from imitate. I think it's being able to it's unimitatable. So and then it's like you change that into a noun, and that the un becomes inimitability. So it's that's a difficult word to pronounce. Inimitability. I've never heard it before doing the research for this chapter, so that's kind of cool. Got a new word. And in the Arabic, I believe it's ijaz, which means inimitability, or it's you can it's basically saying you cannot imitate the Quran, and that's the challenge. So what it's saying is, if I cannot, if as someone who is a Christian, I don't believe in the Quran as like divinely inspired or divinely authored or anything like that. And it says, if I personally, as a disbeliever, cannot produce a man-made chapter which is the same quality as the Quran, then the Quran must be the divine word of God and was not produced by men. Because the logic is, like, if you could produce it, then men created it and men created the Quran. But if you can't, then it must have been like not produced by men. It must be the divine word of God. Okay. And now the phrase it specifically uses like this. It says, then produce a surah like this. And that implies, like, if you can speak English, it just means if you're in doubt about what we've revealed to our servant, then produce a surah which is as good as this. Or produce a surah which is like as high quality as this. That's what it means by like. It's really talking about quality here. Okay. What does quality mean? We'll get to that a bit later, but just for now, it's about high quality. Okay, if I cannot produce a man-made chapter which is the same quality or as high a quality as the Quran, then the Quran must be the divine word of God and was not produced by men. Now, before we get into the actual challenge itself, there's one final thing that I just need to clarify here, which is there's two different interpretations of this. Okay, and this is where some of you guys, if you know Arabic, maybe you can comment down below, and I don't know, maybe there's something in the Arabic text which explains this, but I've done a lot of languages in the past. I did like 3 languages for GCSE. I really enjoy linguistics and stuff. So this is why I'm picking up on like the linguistics. From a grammar perspective, there's 2 ways to look at this. It's either interpretation 1, if you are unable to do so, so if you're unable to produce a surah like it, as high quality of it, if you're unable to do so, then fear the fire. Okay, I'm specifically looking at this. If you're unable to do so, then fear the fire. And essentially what this is then saying is this bit in the dashes there, that's just an interjection. That's saying if you're unable to do so, and by the way, you're never going to be able to do so, just to let you know, by the way, it's not possible. But if you are unable to do so, then fear the fire. That's the first one. The second one is where rather than this just being an interjection, sort of by the way, this is like part of the if clause. This is saying if you are unable to do so, and if you will never be able to do so, then fear the fire. Now, these are distinct. These are 2 distinct things, which is why I want to mention it. And maybe it's not so clear from that example that these are 2 distinct interpretations of it. So let me give an example. Let's say the question was, okay, if you don't have a wife, put your hand up. Okay? If you don't have a wife, put your hand up. Okay? This second interpretation is saying if you don't have a wife, and if you never will have a wife, put your hand up. Okay, and in fact, this one's like, if you don't have a wife, and by the way, you lot are ugly, so you probably won't, put your hand up. So, for example, if they ask me this question, Owen, if you don't have a wife, put your hand up, I could put my hand up, like I don't have a wife. Okay, but if they ask me this question, if you don't have a wife, and if you never will have a wife, put your hand up, I couldn't put my hand up. Because I don't know that I'll never have a wife. Like there's a possibility I'll have a wife. So I couldn't put my hand. So you see how it's the same thing, but when we take on these 2 different interpretations, they mean different things. Because this is just talking about the present tense, and that's just an interjection. This is talking about the present tense and the future tense. So it's almost like interpretation 1 is, if you can't produce me a surah right now, then you need to fear the fire. Whereas this one is, if you are unable to produce a surah now, and if you're never going to be able to produce a surah, then you need to fear the fire. And this one, you're more likely to put your hand up for that one and have to fear the fire because that's present tense. This one, it's like, well, maybe I can find a surah in the future, so it's more likely I don't have to put my hand up. Okay? Those are the 2 different interpretations. I don't know which one it is, so feel free to put it in the comments if you know what it is. Okay? But in terms of the actual argument itself and the challenge, it doesn't actually make too much of a difference. Because essentially the difference between these 2 interpretations is, do I have to produce the surah now? Or, like, do I have the rest of my life to produce the surah? And that's essentially, like, interpretation 1 says, if you're unable to do it, more or less right now, then you've got to fear the fire. But this is saying, if you're unable to do it right now, and you don't think you're ever going to be able to do it for the rest of your life, then fear the fire. Essentially, you can then just simplify this into like you spending the rest of your life to produce that surah just that's essentially like it's just now, because it's just time is just one thing. Time's not right. It makes sense in my head. I don't think I can explain this, but this is just a me thing. These are the two interpretations I came up with. They don't actually matter to where we're going to go. Okay, so if that doesn't make sense and anyone's like wondering about that, just drop a comment down below and I'll try and explain it better. But essentially, those two interpretations don't actually matter. It'd be interesting to see what it's saying, whether it requires me to produce a surah now or for the rest of my life, but it doesn't actually matter to where we're going to go. So let's move on. So the question is, can I produce a chapter with the same quality or as higher quality as the Quran? And these are the possible answers that I can say to this question. Okay. My first possible answer is yes. Yes, I can produce a quality with the same quality or higher than the Quran. And if I do have that, then it proves that humans have created a chapter as great as the Quran. Okay, if I can produce a man-made surah, a man-made chapter, which is as great as the Quran, then it proves humans have created a chapter as great as the Quran. Okay, humans cannot create, I should say chapter. Humans cannot create a chapter which is as great as Allah. Therefore, the Quran is not of divine authorship from Allah. Okay, it's like a contradiction. Therefore, the Quran is true, and as a disbeliever, I should not fear Islamic hell. The reason I've said Islamic is because I don't want to say I should not fear hell, because like if this is true, if I can produce this surah, this is basically saying the Quran is not the divine authorship of God, so Islam is not true, but like, obviously Christianity still could be true. So yeah, that's why I've said Islamic, because you can still fear hell or whatever. Okay, now the way this is pointing, the way the Quran wants me to think is then, okay, if I can't, so if I can't produce a chapter with the same quality as the Quran, then humans have not created a chapter as great as the Quran. Therefore, the Quran cannot be from humans. Therefore, the Quran is of divine authorship from Allah. Therefore, the Quran is true. And as a disbeliever, I should start fearing Islamic hell and I should become a believer. Essentially. And like I said, I'm going into this with intellectual honesty. So just based on this right now, it's like, if I can produce one, then I can know for a fact that the Quran is not of divine authorship. And if I can't, then I can know for a fact I'll literally become a Muslim. If I can't produce this chapter, then I don't know what it is. Do you like recite the Shahada or something? I'll do it, right? If that's what it says, though. So let's get to it. So what is my answer? Okay, because I've had the whole day to research this. Throughout my research, have I managed to find that chapter? Because like right now is the moment where I could either prove that Islam is true, prove the Quran is true, of divine authorship, or I could get out a piece. Sorry, this one up here. I could literally. So I pointed at the wrong one with my mouse. I could either right now find out that Islam is true and the Quran is true, and I should start following it, and I'll do it, or I could. Maybe I have a piece of paper prepared right here, which is a surah, which is a chapter that's better or as great as the Quran. Then I can prove this whole thing doesn't exist. Okay, what's my answer? Yes or no? The answer is no. I don't have a chapter. I don't have a surah in front of me, which is the same quality as the Quran. So there we go. Is that the video over then? Is that congratulations, Owen? Christian converts to Muslim? Not quite. Because the problem is with this, it's actually a logical fallacy. It's a logical fallacy. Although it may seem that because of what it says here, if I do not, then I need to fear the fire, because if I can't produce one as great, then obviously the Quran is of divine authorship. It's actually a logical fallacy. And I'm going to explain why. Because I want to make sure people understand this verse. This verse does not mean I should fear Islamic hell, because it's actually a logical fallacy. So let's go. According to the same logic which the Quran is using, Usain Bolt is God. Does that sound legit? Because that's the logic the Quran's using right now. Don't worry, I'm going to explain. Okay? So, a lot of you, I'm probably sure, are familiar with proof by contradiction. I know of a lot of people watching who are like doing A-levels in like the UK and stuff. So, a lot of you probably doing maths, proof by contradiction. It's basically where you assume something is true, then you go through the whole thing. So the one we would have learned for like A-level maths would be like root 2 is rational, root 3 is rational, like there's infinite prime numbers, all that sort of stuff. And you go through it, A and B, there are no common factors, right? This is the key bit. You prove A and B you say A and B are integers with no common factors. You do a bunch of stuff and you're like, oh, B and A are multiples of 3. This contradicts the statement A and B have no common factors, therefore the assumption is incorrect, therefore root 3 is irrational. So essentially it's like you go through the whole logical chain, and then once you get to the end, if you got a contradiction, then the initial assumption must have been wrong. Okay, and this is where I'm saying, I'm going in this with an open mind, a questioning mind, but I'm being logical, I'm being intellectually honest. Okay, so I'm going to go through step by step the logic, and that's where I hope you can, if you see the logic, you're going to you can just follow exactly what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything crazy. So yeah, like I said, the logic being used by the Quran right now would prove Usain Bolt is God. Let me explain how. Okay, let's just come up here. I don't want to get ahead of yourselves right now. So let's assume Usain Bolt is God. Okay, and let's say God is the fastest entity at running to exist. Okay, that's probably, I don't know, like God's all powerful, that's why it's probably true, right? But let's just say God is the fastest entity at running to exist. Okay, so assuming Usain Bolt is God, it's next line of like all this is just linear, like just line by line logic. Connect the dots. Assume Usain Bolt is God. God is the fastest entity at running to exist. Okay, if you're in doubt about whether Usain Bolt is God, then produce a human who can run as fast as Usain Bolt. That's the exact same logic being used here by the Quran. If you're in doubt about whether Usain Bolt is God, produce a human who can run as fast as Usain Bolt. Now, option one is yes. Option one is if yes, I can produce a human who can run as fast as Usain Bolt, then Usain Bolt is not the fastest entity to exist. Okay, and therefore it's a contradiction, and therefore Usain Bolt is not God. Okay, so if I could go on the streets, right, and go and find someone who can sprint 100 meters faster than Usain Bolt, then we've had that contradiction, okay, which means Usain Bolt is not God. Okay, because Usain Bolt is God, God's the fastest entity at running to exist. Boom. Usain Bolt is not God. But what happens if I can't? What happens if I can't find someone who's as fast as Usain Bolt? Okay, and this is actually the option I'd have to go with. If you presented this logical argument to me right now, I couldn't give you this option because I can't actually find a human who's faster than Usain Bolt. Okay? Look at this. Wikipedia 100 meters. Usain Bolt was the fastest 3 times at the 100 meters. There's no one faster. Now, obviously, he's getting older, so he wouldn't be like doing it this now, right? But you know what I'm trying to say. I couldn't find someone who's faster than Usain Bolt. So I would have to go down this route. So if I cannot produce a human who can run as fast as Usain Bolt, then Usain Bolt must be God. We can't produce a human who can run as fast as Usain Bolt. Therefore, Usain Bolt is God. And that's that logic. I haven't twisted anything here. That's just going line by line by line by line by line. Using the logic of the Quran from what it's saying here, if you're in doubt about whether Usain Bolt is God, produce a human who can run as fast as Usain Bolt. Okay, and if you can't, then Usain Bolt must be God. So there we go. Congratulations, everyone. We've just proved Usain Bolt is God. Now, wait, what? Like, what's going on here? How have we got to here? And to be honest, I'm asking the same question because we can do the same thing. Okay, there's this guy called Young Hoon Kim, who is allegedly one of the highest IQ individuals in the world with an IQ of 276. That seems high. I've no idea what normal people have, to be honest. Okay, so we can't find anyone with an IQ as high as him. Okay, so God's obviously omniscient. God's obviously very clever, intelligent, all this sort of stuff. So if we can't find anyone with an IQ as high as him, does that mean he's God? No, like that doesn't mean he's God. Just because we can't find anyone higher than him doesn't automatically make him God. Like we don't have to find someone who has an IQ as high as him to prove that he's not God. Like that doesn't work. Okay, just because you're the best at something, it doesn't make you God. Because the other possibility is you're just the best human. That's all it could be. Just because Usain Bolt is the fastest human, or just because he's the fastest person we know, doesn't mean he's God. He could just be the fastest human. And he's obviously not God. I think everyone watching can agree. You see where I'm going with this, okay? So how do we do this, like this logical argument more accurately? It's actually like this. If you cannot produce a human who can run as fast as Usain Bolt, then there's 3 different possibilities. Either Usain Bolt is God. That is a possibility. Like it is possible. Either Usain Bolt is God because he's the fastest runner and God is the fastest runner, or Usain Bolt is the fastest human. Usain Bolt could just be the fastest human, and God is just a separate entity who runs even faster. Just because he's the fastest person we know, the fastest entity we know, does not make him God. Because he could just be the fastest human, and then God could be even higher. Or a faster human exists, but I just can't find them. Okay, now let me visualize. Let me do this visually for you. So, what we're trying to prove here is we're trying to prove Usain Bolt is God. So if this is speed, so if you're going up, it's speed. Again, we're going with this thing like God is the fastest entity in the world. Whatever. It's just like an example, right? You know what? Yeah, it'd be better if I put this up there. So let's say that's God, right? So if Usain Bolt, okay, I'm going to explain the exact same thing, but I'm going to do it visually so you guys can understand what I'm saying. Okay, let's come back here. If I can produce a human who can run as fast as Usain Bolt, then Usain Bolt is not the fastest entity to exist. Contradiction, therefore Usain Bolt is not God. So, for example, if I can find someone else who runs just as fast as Usain Bolt, right, then Usain Bolt can't be God. Because if Usain Bolt was God and someone else was running as fast as him, well, that's not possible because God is the fastest. No one can be as fast as God. So that's just not possible. So these lot must be down here. So Usain Bolt can't be God. Similarly, if I find someone else and they're actually faster than Usain Bolt can't be God. Okay? Now, let's say I can't find someone who's as fast as Usain Bolt. Like I said, there's three possibilities. If there's someone else, if this is the fastest person I can find and it's someone else and they're below Usain Bolt, option one is fair enough. Usain Bolt is God. And it would look like that. Usain Bolt is God and the next person is all the way down here. Or it could just be this is Usain Bolt and that's someone else. It could be that as well. That's that second one that I'm saying there. Usain Bolt could just be the fastest human. Just because someone's the fastest human doesn't mean they're the fastest entity. Just because someone is the most, like the highest IQ human doesn't make them the highest IQ entity. So it could look like that. And the final thing is it could look something like this. Right? It could look like the fastest person we can find is down here. And there is actually a guy who's faster than Usain Bolt, but he lives on a random island somewhere and he has never heard of the Olympics, so he hasn't entered, so we don't know. But in that case, again, Usain Bolt isn't necessarily God. So when you look at this logical argument that's going on here, there's actually three possibilities. And I hope this is making sense. It makes sense to me, and I've spent a couple of hours now trying to organize this into a thing that makes sense, which is why I tried to make this Usain Bolt analogy. Hopefully it's helpful. Okay? Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because you can't find someone who's faster doesn't automatically mean they're God. Right? Okay? So now that we understand that, now we've done that analogy, let's go and apply this to the Quran. Okay? With this Quranic test that it's given me to test whether it's of divine authorship. Okay? Let me close these, just to get these out of the way. Okay, so let's assume the Quran is of divine authorship. Okay, so it's like the word of God, created by God, whatever, however you want to say it, okay? The assumption we're making as well is a book of divine authorship will contain the highest quality chapters that exist. Okay, that's what this is sort of referring to when it says, where is it? Then produce a surah like it. Produce a surah the like thereof. Essentially saying like it, as good as this, as high quality as this. So a book of divine authorship will contain the highest quality chapters that exist. If you're in doubt about whether the Quran is of divine authorship, produce a chapter which is as high a quality as the Quran. I'm doing the same thing. Nothing new here. I'm just going to go through this Usain Bolt thing again. And I did not mean to click that. That took me way further back than I wanted to. Okay, nothing new. I'm just going to do the exact same thing. Okay. Let's move this up a bit. Okay. So, if I can produce a chapter which is as high a quality as the Quran, if not higher, then the Quran does not have the highest quality chapters that exist. Okay? And that's a contradiction. Okay, because if the Quran's of divine authorship, and the book of divine authorship will contain the highest quality chapters that exist, then the Quran has the highest quality chapters that exist, but we've just said here the Quran does not have the highest quality chapters that exist. Okay? Like another line I could add in here is, the Quran has the highest quality chapters that exist. Right? And then we've just said here, a little bit later, the Quran does not have the highest quality chapters that exist, therefore it's a contradiction. So that's why if I do produce a surah, if I do produce a chapter that is as high quality as the Quran, then I can prove that the Quran is not of divine authorship. So it works that way round, okay? But does it work the other way around? Like we said with Usain Bolt, it doesn't. It doesn't work like that. Okay? If I cannot produce a chapter which is as high a quality as the Quran, then either the Quran is of divine authorship and The reason I couldn't produce one as high as that is because like men couldn't produce anything as good as that because this one's divinely inspired, divinely authored, or the Quran is the highest quality human book. That could be the other possibility. And so the reason I couldn't find something as higher quality as the Quran is because like the team I had, we just couldn't make anything as good as the Quran. The Quran may have been made by humans really, really, really well. It may be the best thing humans have ever made. And that's why I couldn't match it. I couldn't match the best thing humans have ever made. But that doesn't make it God. Same as this. Usain Bolt might be the fastest guy who's ever existed. But just because I can't find someone as fast as him, that doesn't make him God. He could just be the fastest human, and God is still a separate entity. It's the same with this. The Quran might be a really, really, really good, high-quality, man-made book, but it could just be a man-made book, and God is something else. And sorry, it's not divinely authored by God, so it's not the highest quality physically possible in the universe. Okay? Or there could be a chapter that is of higher quality as the Quran, but I just can't find it or I can't produce it. Right? Like, let's say I need a team of like scholars to make it, then we can't make it. Or maybe it's already been written and I can't find it because I haven't read any book in the world. It's not possible. This test doesn't work. So there are two actual possible outcomes of this test, which is given me. Either the Quran is not of divine authorship, or there's no conclusive outcome. Like, this is a question. The question here is, can you produce a chapter? Like, that's the question being asked, okay? Can I produce a chapter like the Quran? Can I produce a chapter with the same quality as the Quran? Can I produce a chapter with as high a quality as the Quran gets? Can I produce it, yes or no? It's a yes or no question. Okay, none of this like when people in YouTube like ask like in debates when people ask yes or no questions and they start waffling. It's like yes or no, give me one or this is a yes or no question. Can you produce a chapter which is as good as the Quran or as great as the Quran, as higher quality as the Quran? If it's yes, then it proves the Quran is not of divine authorship because it means humans were able to make something as good as the Quran, which means it's not divinely authored because if it was divinely authored, it would be better than humans. There's no way humans can reach the level of quality that divine authorship could be. Otherwise, the divine author is like not all great or powerful or anything because they can only do what humans can do. They can't do any. They're not superior to humans. Like his issues, if they would not be superior to the God would not be superior to human if I found something which was the same quality of the Quran. That's what it's saying. Right? That's option one. That's 50% of it. Option yes, I can prove it's not of divine authorship. Or option two is this proves nothing. It just proves that it's one of these three. Inconclusive, no conclusive outcome. It could be any of these. Okay? Yeah, like I said, the only thing this test can do is potentially prove the Quran is not of divine authorship if a chapter of similar quality is provided. That's all it does. So the only value this gives you here, or gives me here, is this gives me the opportunity to refute the Quran. Because if I can produce that chapter that is as high quality as the Quran itself has just proved that it's not true and it's not of divine authorship. But the reverse doesn't work because of these three. Okay? So, let's get to back to the question now. Now I've explained that that's actually the two possible outcomes and that whatever happens, no matter what you do, no matter what chapter you bring forth, no matter how good the quality is of the chapter that I might bring forth, it cannot prove that the Quran is the inspired word of God, or it cannot prove that the Quran is divinely authored. Can't do it. It can't do it logically. Nothing I'm saying here is emotion or making this up or being prejudiced or any of this. Is like I'm coming in this with the open mind, but I'm being logical. I'm being honest. Go through the lines. The Notion documents are down below. You can go through it line by line yourself. Okay. So what was my answer? Can I produce a verse which is of higher quality or higher? If I can't, it doesn't matter. No one cares. There's no conclusive outcome. If I can, well, the Quran's just been refuted, essentially. The answer is no. I actually can't. So the reason, if I could, then it would all be sort of sorted. I could stop the series here, right? But not right now. I can't produce a verse which is of higher quality as the Quran or higher. First of all, I don't really know the quality yet because I'm not very far into it. Because the problem here is it's saying you need to produce one of the same quality or like this. Well, I don't really know sort of what quality we're aiming for here because I haven't gone very far into the Quran. I'm I'm like one and a quarter surahs in, right? And I'm not even that. I'm like 1 1/8 surah in. So I don't really know what the quality is. It doesn't give any criteria for assessing the quality. Like, this is a very vague statement that's been given here. It's not very clear. It's just saying produce something like this. Okay, bring forth a surah like it. It's not very specific or clear at all. There's no criteria. And also, quality is subjective, right? Because it's like, the equivalent of saying, produce a book, give me a book, hand me over a fiction book which is as entertaining as Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, right? Otherwise, J.K. Rowling is the best author in the world, right? More or less, it's more or less, it's slightly different, but it's more or less along those lines, which is like, well, that's completely subjective, isn't it? Like, someone can bring, like, Pride and Prejudice, right? And I'm gonna be like, no, mate, that's not of high quality. You've just failed. Therefore, J.K. Rowling's the best author. Or like, I can think that, but someone else can think Pride and Prejudice is like the best book ever written, and therefore that proves J.K. Rowling is not the author. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's so subjective. This doesn't really give anyone any scope anyway, right? So it's no conclusive outcome if I can't do it. But if I can do it, the Quran's not of divine authorship, but it's very difficult for me to even do that because I don't know the quality of the Quran. I didn't really know what I'm like. This is like, I don't really know what I'm competing against here. And like, there's no criteria. Quality is subjective. Okay, so it's sort of, this whole test has kind of been proved redundant just through what we've done here. Okay. According to Gemini, which I've done some research, when it talks about sort of producing a surah like this, as higher quality of this, it's talking about it in respect to the following aspects: literary excellence and eloquence, wisdom and profound meaning, internal consistency and coherence. That's probably what it does mean, right, in terms of quality. But again, that's subjective. Things like internal consistency and coherence, that's fair enough. Like, this one doesn't have any contradictions, this one has contradictions. Okay? These two are very subjective, but like, it's definitely something I'm going to be thinking about. It's like, if I can get a chapter which is of higher quality than the Quran, then the Quran's false. Like, it just says that. And so it's things here like internal consistency and coherence. And it's something I mentioned in the previous episode as well, which is the Quran has no inconsistencies, apparently. So if I come all the way up to what we covered at the start of the second episode, where was it? Apparently it's got no contradictions. Okay? Then do they not reflect upon the Quran? If it had been from any other than Allah, they would have found within it much contradiction. Okay, so apparently it doesn't have any contradictions. So again, that suggests high quality. But can I find something that's the same? I don't know. Okay, and it's going to be difficult, right? But yeah, that's where I wanted to leave it there, because I've essentially tackled this. Because this was the first real challenge to me as a Christian. Because it's basically just straight up said, Owen, if you can't produce me a chapter which is as good as the Quran, then Islam is true and you need to start following it. And the problem is, I can't produce one right now. Therefore, like, if you just read the text at surface level, then the Quran, then I'm supposed to be Muslim right now, because that's what the text has said. But that's why I've had to do this diving deep, and that's why I wanted to go in detail on this video to really explain it's not what the Quran is saying. The Quran is not, well, it's trying to say it, but it's a logical fallacy. Okay, so here's the conclusion. The fact that I haven't yet provided a chapter of as high a quality as the Quran does not prove that the Quran is divinely inspired. All it has done is given no conclusive outcome on anything at all. Okay. In fact, this test cannot prove that the Quran is of divine authorship. It is committing the logical fallacy, the argument from ignorance. Okay. So if I come here, essentially we come down here. One way in which one would attempt to shift the burden of proof is by committing a logical fallacy known as the argument from ignorance. It occurs when either a proposition is assumed to be true because it has not yet been proven false, or a proposition is assumed to be false because it has not yet been proven true. So essentially what this is saying is, it's saying the Quran is assumed to be the Quran is assumed to have divine authorship because it has not yet been proven false by something which is as good as the Quran. Which all that is just saying, oh, absence of evidence is evidence of absence. That's all it's saying, which is not. Absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence. It just means you've committed a logical fallacy known as the argument from ignorance. That's all it is. This bit of the Quran, it commits a logical fallacy. I wasn't expecting it to commit a logical fallacy this soon. but it did. Okay, so yeah, I had to film this video because, like I said, I'm that's what this series is going to be. I'm be challenging it in the same way that I would want someone to do the same thing to the Bible. That's why I said in the first episode, if someone wants any video ideas, go and like make a series like this, going like reading the Bible and challenging it. Because I want someone to challenge it. Okay, which I'll get into again in a second. Okay. Yeah, like I said, if anything, it just leaves the door open for anyone to prove that the Qur'an is not of divine authorship by producing a verse of as higher quality. So, in fact, it's just given sort of a window that's now available in case I want it. Okay. Finally, and I thought this was important to say, right? The Qur'an here actually accuses me of not being truthful and not being intellectually honest if I don't provide a chapter of as higher quality. Let's look at the text. If you're in doubt that what we have sent down about our servant, that's me. I'm in doubt. I'm a Christian. Okay, so I'm in doubt about this document, the Quran. Okay, it's saying if I'm in doubt, then produce a surah, the like thereof, and call upon your witnesses other than Allah, if you should be truthful. That's saying if I'm being truthful, I will produce a surah. Which means if I don't produce a surah, I'm not being truthful. I'm not being truthful about my doubt. I'm being intellectually dishonest. I'm lying, right? Let's come to this one. Then bring forth a surah like it, and call upon whomever you can besides Allah, if you should be truthful. Okay, so I'm doubting it, but I'm not bringing forth a surah, therefore I'm not truthful, right? That's what it's saying. Basically, the Quran is accusing me, because I haven't produced that surah, of not being truthful about my doubt, and it's saying I'm being intellectually honest. It says I'm being intellectually dishonest about my doubt. I refute that false accusation. I refute it. As you've seen in this video, I've just gone through it logically. The Quran cannot tell me, because of this, that if I can't produce it, a surah, then either the Quran is true or I'm a liar. Because it's committing a logical fallacy. It's committing the argument of ignorance. Okay? So, yeah, the Quran accuses me of not being truthful. It accuses me of not being intellectually honest. I refute that false accusation. I refute it, and I hope throughout this video you've been able to see, and throughout the series, in the past episodes and the next episodes, you'll see I'm going through everything with intellectual honesty. Okay, this is something I covered. Let me just bring it up now in the notes for my first video. Right, so this is the first video. I literally said my mindset going into this is I'm studying, okay, to rightly divide the word of truth. I'm doing this for truth, okay? I'm here to always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who gives me reasons for the hope I have. Not just like blindly, yeah, I'm a Christian and I don't have any reasons. It's like I want to be able to have reasons, okay? Like here, and if Christ has not been raised, our preaching is useless and so is your faith. That's intellectual honesty. That's not me saying I'm a Christian no matter what. That means if you show me the truth and you show me that Christ was not raised from the dead and that was all fabricated and he never died on the cross and all that sort of stuff and he never got raised from the dead, I'll stop being a Christian today. I'll stop it. Okay? These in Berea were more noble than those in Thessalonica in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily. I'm not here just for blind faith. I'm questioning what's in here. So I'm going to question what's in the Bible and I'm going to question what's in the Quran. That's what I'm going to do. Iron sharpens iron. So I hope for anyone watching you, this has hopefully convicted you of something. Or maybe it's just you've never seen this before. Because like I said, I don't know how much the Quran gets taught to like Muslims, for example. I don't know if like you go through the whole thing or you just do one verse, like, or you do it in topic. I have no idea how it works, right? So I don't know if this verse is something that common that people will have seen or it's something that people won't have seen. But it's just, when there's verses like this, I'm going to go and challenge them. I'm going to go question them. Okay? And yeah, like I said, I've gone through that all logically, honestly, and transparently. And yeah, this doesn't prove anything. It does not prove that the Quran is true. And it also doesn't make me intellectually dishonest, because I can't produce a surah. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave it there because that's what I wanted to cover. So we got that. I don't know how long this video was. It's probably like 30, 45 minutes. It always goes quickly. It's like I feel like the last video I filmed, it felt like a 20-minute video and it was actually like 45 minutes long. So again, it feels like I've only been doing this like 20, 25 minutes, but it might be like a 45-minute video by now. So anyone who stayed for the whole duration of the video, I really appreciate it. I hope you're able to learn something. But like I said, don't learn anything from me. Don't take my word from it. All the notes are down below. Go and do your own research. Ask your preachers or whatever they're called. And go ask them questions, and yeah, leave comments down below if you agree, you disagree, you thought I got anything wrong, you thought I got anything right. Go put it down below. And those are the questions we covered last time, and if you haven't answered them yet, go and put it down in the comments. Do you believe in the gospel and in Injil? That's what we covered in episode 2. Again, the links for episode 2 will be down below if you haven't watched it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one when we will continue with Surah 2 and learning about the Quran. Take care.